Hello, everyone. Oh, yeah, let me turn off the acoustic cinematic music. I thought it turned off by itself, but it doesn't. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's episode of BrandCraft. I'm your host, Ann Wynn, and I'm here today with my guest co-host, Amy Fair.
Hello.
Hi, Amy.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for today's conversation.
Absolutely. And it only makes sense, right? Because we're, friends with today's guest. And for those out there who are viewing and watching the show who may not be familiar with who you are, Amy, I'd love for you to introduce yourself briefly.
Sure. My name is Amy Fair. I currently work as an editorial lead at Equint Studios for Salesforce, and I am a huge part of that sounds very vain. I enjoy the Content Marketing Institute community and am really excited to be here today to talk to some of my peers turned friends in Ann and Shane.
You are a large part of the content marketing world community, Miss. What was that you won? The award you won last year? What was it? Community champion?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much. So no, you're it's all true hype because you are a wonderful human being. But anyway, we're going to move on and introduce our guest. As Amy mentioned, we're so excited to have Shane Schatz on as the featured guest today. And she is, oh my gosh, I've known her for a very long time, and we'll talk about that a little bit in our convo too. And she's a powerhouse. That quote, what is it? She may be little but fierce or something like that totally describes Shane. But there are also three other words that describe Shane: enthusiastic, optimistic, and tenacious. And she endearingly is known as the professional big mouth. She's built her career on amplifying great brands, and she has an amazing team, an amazing agency, now rebranded as Big Voice Social. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in our conversation as well. And without further ado, here comes Miss Shane Schatz.
Hi. Am I frozen? There I am. Okay. Hi.
There you are. Hi.
Hi. It's good to see you guys.
It's good to see you, even virtually, albeit virtually, right?
Yeah.
So how are things there in Louisville? I'd had to throw that in there and make sure that
it's funny. I'm from here, but I say Louisville. And
okay.
I don't say it like I'm from here, even though I'm born and bred. I do say Louisville. In fact, one time I was in New York with my husband. We were shopping, and I was buying something. The lady was writing down my address on the computer, and I said Louisville, and she said Louisville. I totally thought you were from New York, and my husband goes, "You just made her whole day." So, but no, I'm born and bred Louisvillian. So,
and that's how I learned how to say it correctly. Just a little history about Shane. She and I met on a Twitter chat called Mobile Chat, which she was handling for a client. Oh my gosh, I kept thinking it's the other day, but you and I decided it was, 2012? 2011?
Something like that. 2011, some around there. Yeah, a long time ago.
13 years ago. It seems like just the other day. And inevitably, we always would have side convos about spa days and chocolate and chocolate.
Yeah, I was completely off topic while Patrick was running like this very important conversation about mobile and, apps. And this was like when apps were brand new, and he was running the Ready app, and I was just his assistant. And I was just over on the side cracking jokes and talking about, let's go to the spa. This is boring. It was just absolutely ridiculous, but it kept us all entertained, and it was so much fun. It was a great part of my childhood.
I so miss Twitter chats. I really do.
The good old days.
It was.
Those were the good old days. Indeed. They were so much fun. I mean, that's really how I met so many people. And then I feel like when Twitter got all crazy, I felt like camp ended. Like, where did all of my friends go? I couldn't find them. It was very upsetting.
Yeah. Speaking of social and all the good old days, hot take that many people may not agree with, right? I have always considered myself a professional or a practitioner, but I've never considered myself an expert, because I don't think that there are truly social media experts or even marketing experts, because, as you already all know, things change constantly. The one thing that we can count on in the world of social is change. Love to hear your thoughts, Shane.
Well, you know that I agree. And I write about it. I blog about it on my website a lot. I do believe that we are social media practitioners. Now, I do think that there is a place for the word expert. You could be an Instagram expert, but you probably work at Instagram. Like, I think Masari, follow him. He is an expert, right? But I think that those of us that are out there, content marketers, content creators, it is very unlikely for any of us to truly be experts. We might be an expert in one slice of it, but for the most part, like you said, this changes every day. And, that's why we tell our clients, that's why you hire us, because what worked for you last week isn't working today. So you have to make sure that you're staying on top of the trends, that you know what's going on. Our team is constantly sharing information. Did you see this change? This is coming. Or, hey, this happened last week. Did you even know about it? And so that's something that I think is really, really important. One of the things we're focused on right now is re-educating our clients about hashtags. Hashtags just aren't doing it on Instagram anymore. And if you're still focused on hashtags, get unfocused, because it's all about your keywords. And how do you know what your keywords are? Well, you've got to partner with your person who handles SEO and web development to know what those keywords are. And that's really important that you're putting those in your caption, that you're saying them in your video. If for some reason you talk about a topic and that exact topic didn't get it written into the caption, okay, add a hashtag. But in general, no one's searching hashtags as much. They don't even have the functionality to follow hashtags. I think that's phasing out, if it didn't phase out already in the process. So it's more important that you know who's your audience, what kind of words do they want to hear, and put them into your natural voice.
Yeah. And as a content marketer, Amy, I mean, how important are those keywords when you're writing content, like whether it's social or any other kind of content?
For some things, it's the basis of what you're writing about. And, sometimes it can get tricky if they're a little clunky and they don't really fit in with what you're trying to write about. But what's interesting about what Shane just talked about is that it's not just like social media anymore. It's totally beyond that with SEO and the web component and things like that. So I think that's very interesting.
Well, and how much does, AI play into that now too? I mean, we follow a couple of professionals that we met through Content Marketing World who are Dale Bertrand. I'm going to say his name because I love his stuff, right? He's always very informative. And he really, truly talks about AI and SEO and how your content, make sure that your content is doing what you needed to do as far as search engine optimization, taking into consideration now that there's Google AI overview and all these other things. So it's a constant change, constant. So how do we stay up on that, right? I mean, I follow your stuff. I follow your blogs. I follow your videos. Shane has his great little videos like Monday marketing, or whatever.
Big marketing minute. But although this week is completely off topic because I'm on a rant right now about the college Facebook groups. These people are driving me bananas. So I went off topic. It's not about marketing. It's about how to be a good member of a group. Stop using these groups as Google. There. That's my
marketing.
Yeah.
Because that's how people utilize these groups is it's another exclusive community. But then if you come in and spam it all the time, then that's not the right way to do it. So that absolutely.
You cannot go online and ask a bunch of strangers, what does my college student have? Here are his symptoms. You can't do that. Stop doing that. Tell him to go to the health center on campus. Stay out of it. It's really annoying.
We're going to use your Facebook group as a WebMD.
It's so annoying. I can't even tell you. Helicopter parents drive me crazy. These people have gone to college. They are capable. Stop telling them they aren't.
This is what happens when we get together. Our conversations kind of segue into different things. So, but it absolutely has to do with marketing, my friend.
That's a different live stream, I guess.
Exactly. But if you do want to follow along, bigvoicesocial.com, you can sign up for her newsletter. I receive the emails, and there's always great info. And it's a good way for business owners to stay abreast of what's going on, but also for the rest of us, right? Because with the changes, sometimes I don't hear about it right away because I'm so busy, working, and then my colleagues or counterparts or friends know about it or learn about it first, and I hear it from you. So I think that's a great way to also collaborate and stuff because we're all still learning together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's so much to know. And so like back to the conversation about being an expert, who can keep track of all of it with the changes on Instagram, you know, on Threads, on LinkedIn, on Facebook? I mean, how do you keep track of it all? It's impossible. So you have to kind of follow people who are thought leaders, who really are out front with whichever slice they might be, more expert level. And that's what we do. And so, you know, and I really depend on my team. I know I talk about her all the time. Candace on my team is a true professional in Instagram reel creation. And so, I mean, even last night I was doing something for a client that I handle, and I'm like, can you please break this down for me one more time? Because I'm an idiot. And, you know, we do have to lean on the people that are in it every day, that really understand the ins and outs and the repercussions for making a mistake. Mistakes happen and it's totally fine. But sometimes somebody you ask can be like, oh, I've learned the hard way. Don't do it this way, do it that way. So I do think we've got to depend on each other. And this content marketing community, the social media community, all the people that we met on Twitter way back when, those are the people I look to say, what are you doing? How are you doing this? I can remember like my very early days on Twitter when I probably followed like 4 people, and one of them was Jason Falls. And I specifically remember asking him like the dumbest question on earth. And he wrote back and he's like, hey, this isn't rocket surgery. And that's like a famous Jason Falls line. But he really was like, it's really simple. This is what you're doing. This is how you do it. And he has been someone I've bounced ideas off of for 20 years almost. So yeah. I think it's important we depend on each other and we learn from each other. Nobody is out here as the one person who knows it all. It just doesn't exist.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and even as far as like content marketing stuff, I consider myself a generalist, right? And so when I have something specific that's around content, guess who I, lean on? Amy and our other colleagues that are our true content marketers. Because again, I consider myself a generalist and I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm going to pull in, someone who needs a little bit more help with SEO, or perhaps someone who is a little more, has more experience and expertise in writing white papers or case studies and things like that, because I can write, but I don't want to write those things. Thoughts about not like being in this silo. And I stand that when you do have someone who stays in this silo, right? And you cannot be in a silo if you want to be successful, whether you're an agency, whether you're a freelancer, or whether you work for a company. I don't think that any of us would be successful in by continuing to stay in a silo.
No, I totally agree. And I think that's one of my favorite things about being a social media agency. I mean, we're in this one part of the pie, but I talk to clients all the time about, well, when I talk to a potential client and they want to know, how do we measure results? Well, who's handling your website? Because I can tell you social results, but if you're not looking at the whole picture, what is the purpose here? You're not going to know your return. And so I think it's really critical that every one of my clients has a person handling web development, because they're going to have changes. They're going to have updates. And I don't code. I don't do that. So I need to make sure there's someone behind the scenes that can respond quickly, get things done efficiently, and are in budget. So, I want to make sure that they have a web developer. If they don't, I have a colleague that I always recommend. And in this case, he also handles SEO. Sometimes that's a different person, but SEO is really, really important that you've got somebody managing that. Is it free? No. And it's kind of expensive, but it's really important, because if you don't know what your keywords are from your SEO work, then how do you know what to put in your content on your website, in your social, in your blog, in your video? How do you know? And so I think that's important. Several of my clients, they get this. They understand you need a budget for not just social, not just web, but we also have a paid ads person. We also have a PR team, because there's so much that goes into it. And I think when this all started and it was like, me on my couch in Hootsuite, sure, I can do whatever you want. Yeah, send me some more work. But really, this is a fine-tuned scientific way to do marketing. And I don't do all marketing, and I don't do PR, because that's a different specialty. Could I tweet a reporter and see if they pick up a story? Sure. Do I do that now? No. Can I write a press release? Maybe. Do I know what to do with it? No. So it's important that you have the right people in place that specialize in what you need to make your business go forward. So I'm working with one client right now who is unbelievable at understanding this. And so we have all those people in place, and we're, as a team, we're all working for the good of the client. We're not stepping on each other's toes. There's no territorialism. I do what I do, you do what you do, and we're all moving the needle for the good of the client. That's how it works best.
That's awesome to have a client who understands that, because it's kind of, it's rare actually, not to down, not to really, be that person towards my clients. I love my clients, right? But oftentimes it is educating them, going, "Hey, I can write a press release, but somebody else can do it much better." But also having the relationships with the media is what helps to get it picked up as well. It's not just purely putting out a press release, because they receive probably hundreds in a day.
Right. Even local media. I mean, you have to make sure that the specialists are there. So I specialize in social. Somebody else specializes in PR. And so why wouldn't you have both of those people in the room? And I get it. I work with a lot of small businesses. Budget is a factor. I completely understand that. But if you want to move the needle on your business, you can't, for lack of a better phrase, you can't half-ass it. You've got to go all in.
I think too, what's interesting is, as we're talking about silos and different people's skills within social media, there's components of that as well, right? Like there's a strategy side, there's an execution side, understanding the technologies and the different platforms, and the reporting side. And so like for me, as a writer, I'm more of a word girl. So when you start throwing like numbers and metrics at me, I'm like, ooh, hesitant. So I think it's interesting too, in social media, that there's so many other components of just slapping something on a handle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm like you, I'm more into the words than the math, but because I own the agency and I send the reports out, I have to look at the reports. And so every month, Meredith, who works on my team, she sends the reports out and I do a full analysis on them so I can hit the high notes for the client. They know what to look for. So every month I dread it. And it's between the 1st and the 5th of the month I have to do it. And I sit down, I do it, and I send her like an angry text. I'm like, done, leave me alone. But it's important. And I remember in one of the social media manager Facebook groups, I don't remember which one, but one of them, someone had asked, this takes so much time. What do you guys do about it? And I remember someone saying, if my clients want reporting, they have to pay for it. And I was like, this is your job. I mean, why should they keep paying you to do the work if you're not proving results and value? So as much as I don't enjoy it and find it to be my top skill, it's important. And there's no one else on the team whose job it would be. So I have to do it. And it has to be valuable. It has to make sense. And if we're down, if engagement was down, we have one client, they're always down in December. They don't sell anything that could be mistaken as a holiday gift. So they're competing against advertisers and all, even with geofencing, they're competing with there's a mall across the street. So, we know that, but if I hadn't been tracking this all these years, maybe I wouldn't know that. And I'd be like, oh, I don't know why we're down. So, tracking those numbers is important. And Meredith and I are working constantly on how do we fine tune this and make it more readable for our clients? How do we make it make sense for the clients so that I'm not just throwing a bunch of numbers out like impressions and reach and views. And I need to break it down into English so they understand the way that we're seeing it and how it's translating.
Absolutely right. Because we're throwing out terminology that they may not understand, and you have to explain, well, what's the difference between an impression and reach? Is that not the same thing? Well, right. But what you were saying about how the other agency or whoever was charging for additional reporting, that's always part of the services. That kind of blows my mind, but it makes me think of this platform that shall remain nameless, but they were have an owl as their logo. They used to charge for reporting separately. I used it for management, and then I had to pay for reports. Wow. And so, and again, this was back in the day when.
But that's even after I left. I left that one and went to a different one that was it included everything. But oh my God,
exactly. It was that's why I moved to a different platform.
Now we're at another one.
Went to another platform that had it all included, because I'm like, I feel like I'm being nickeled and dimed here. I'm like, How
Right.
many credits can I buy for a report? So, so absolutely, it has to be part of it. And Amy, just on your side, like what's important to like a content marketer and thinking about like social and all the content, like what's the important data that they can share with you that would help you? Because I know you said you're not a numbers girl, but it's so many small business owners probably are not, like you said, Shane, right? So what's the thing that's important?
I think it would be the engagement and how people interact with the post, but also the content itself. So if you're promoting a blog, did a social post that promoted it lead to that blog and then potentially take somebody down a path beyond that? But I think even in just creating the social media post itself that would align to, say, the blog post, like really understanding what a reader would want to get out of it versus kind of, just a summary of what the post might be about can really make a difference in the quality of the engagement too. Because I think that's important. It's one thing for somebody to click on something or like it. It's another thing that it leads them kind of as a starting point sometimes down that journey.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what a great segue into our next thing, talking about what to measure, right? So how does social traffic show up as converting? And what does that look like? And conversion isn't always a sale, right? It could be
Right.
whatever action it is you want that person to take. So how do we help social convert? It's like, say, for example, Amy, you said you wrote a blog. What does that look like as far as putting it onto the website, and what's that blog supposed to accomplish? Is it purely educational, or is there like a call to action, and how does social help drive it there? So Shane, what does that process look like for the majority of your clients?
So when we're meeting with new clients, I always, when I'm talking about, we need to make sure the web developer, and we do these monthly meetings. So whoever's on the team, as far as vendors, we all need to be there meeting with the client. And so I work with this web developer. His name's Kenny. We work together a lot. He owns a separate agency. And I always talk about, I can throw the content. I'm really good at throwing the content. But until Kenny looks at the Google Analytics, we don't know if it was caught. And the catching is really what's important. Now, not always. Sometimes it's brand awareness. So if we're putting out a really good reel and there is no CTA and we just want people to engage with this, great, I can give you all kinds of measurements on that. But if we are trying to get people through to the website, into a lead form, or even to read a blog post that could then lead them somewhere else, we need to be able to see that traffic pattern. And I'm not going to be able to do that without the Google side. So Kenny and I always meet together with our clients, and any web developer that I've worked with through the years, we all do this, where we meet together so that we can talk about, here's everything we threw. I saw a peak on January 8th. Then we can go back to the social. We can see what happened on January 8th. And then we can look at the web traffic. Did it land? Did we get that traffic there? Because 9 times out of 10, the objectives with our clients is web traffic. Not always. Again, sometimes it's just brand awareness. Keep them on social. We just want them to know who we are. And then a lot of times it's things like a trackable phone number, where we're only using that phone number. It's in the Instagram profile. There might be one that we're using on their Facebook page. How many phone calls did that specific phone number get? Now we know how many times they saw it on social, because that number is not listed anywhere else. So the better you can set things up to be trackable, the better your metrics will be. And I've never set up those Google numbers, but I think they're pretty simple to do. Here's a fun story for you. My husband once set up a Google Voice number, and then he would crank call me from it, like from the other room. So that was really enjoyable. While I was picking up some random phone number, now it would say spam, so I wouldn't pick it up. So I don't think it's very difficult to set up a Google number, is my point.
Okay, Dr. Shaps. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But then it's a great point, right? But also, I mean, and I'm glad you brought up phone numbers, because we always think drive them to the website. How well has
Depends on the business.
Yeah.
Some businesses, we really rely on phone calls. Some businesses really rely on foot traffic. That's harder to measure, because let's say you have a retail store and you really want people to come in. Your salespeople have to be on to ask them, how'd you find us? How'd you hear about us? Where'd you see the sale? And they don't always remember to do that. So measuring that can get tricky. But I think as much as you can set up to be measurable, the better measurements you'll have.
Okay. And here's the, big elephant in the room. What do you measure?
So again, it depends on the client's objectives. If we're just measuring brand awareness, well, that's easy. I can pull that. We use Agora Pulse right now. So we can pull, all kinds of engagement numbers. We can pull sentiment. Were people happy? Were they unhappy? Were they sharing it? Were they saving it? What kind of engagement did they have? So that's, for me, that's the simplest one because I can keep it in-house. Otherwise, we typically are measuring web traffic. Sometimes that's just generally to the web, but sometimes it's to a specific page. So if we have an event coming up, we might set up a Facebook event, but those are a little tricky. We've all learned through the years, nobody really likes to commit to those publicly. And sometimes they click on them and they think they've registered, but they haven't registered. So we definitely want to, if there's an event coming up, we want to have a web page about it. Now we want to see how many people came to it, but not only that, how many people actually signed up? Did they leave? And I know like the web development SEO people have like these heat maps. So you can even see, here's how long they were here. Here's where they were staying. Here's where they went to. And I find that kind of data fascinating, especially when it's laid out in a report that I can read. I don't know how to pull those reports, but the web SEO people do. So it's really fascinating to see, they didn't go to this lead form, but they did go to this blog post about this number one thing that we do, and we're the only people in town. So, okay, how do we leverage that? And how do we monetize that? And those are the kinds of conversations we have every month where we're talking about, here's what happened last month, and how do we use that to go forward? What are we going to do this month? Those kinds of conversations for me are fascinating. I actually have a client that just pulled a lot of data, a ton of data. And what they found out was, even though our social is telling us that our demographic is more female, the number of paying customers is actually more male. So we're kind of dealing with, how do we fix that? Is it that they're seeing us on social and they're making appointments for their husband, and that ends up being the customer? Maybe. So we're digging into that kind of data, but that kind of information, I mean, it's fascinating what you can learn when you really start to look, and when you have the right people in place who know how to pull it and read it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fascinating, because I kind of feel like people are on social without some kind of roadmap or strategy or goal, right? It's, we just have to be on social. Well, yes, it's
a lot more to it. A lot more to it.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it.
Right. So
I actually just the other day saw in some small business, some Facebook group, someone posted and said, I'm just launching. I'm a solopreneur. I think I'm just going to set up a Facebook page. And like, it took me a tenth of a second. I'm like, don't do that. You need a web page. You don't own your Facebook page. You own your website. So you always want to make sure you have your social footprint or your digital footprint set up properly. Don't ever just have social.
And because it's not owned, and it's, right. Well, something could happen like Twitter. And then if you were only on that platform, you might not.
You're out of business.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. And that's what, and all of us, I think most of us, the practitioners, right? Well, that's what we'll tell people. Social is still rented land. It's, if your landlord decides that they're going to sell or they're going to close up shop, well, what happens to you? I mean, so yeah. Got to have some kind of your own digital space. Anything else that we want to add, Amy?
No.
we're gonna wanted to talk about your recent rebranding, Shane, to Big Voice Social, and I think I want to help people understand, like, because when I do workshops or when I talk to people or businesses, I'm always like, your brand can evolve. Don't feel like you're going to be, it's written in stone. You may be this one brand for a number of years, but it evolves because your business evolves, you evolve, the people you serve evolves. And so I really love the fact that you started that evolution, right? And you were kind of like, hey, we're building something big, stay tuned, pay attention. You made sure that people were following. And like, so when you made your big announcement, it was like, oh, this looks phenomenal. So I'd love to learn the why, the how, and the what, and really what made you decide to take that move at first.
Okay, so we have to kind of go back in time. So my husband and I moved to Louisville, Kentucky in 2002, which is where I'm from. He is not from here. He will be the first to tell you. But we moved here in 2002 from New York City, and our address in New York City was 520 East 72nd Street. So originally we wanted to name my launching business after our favorite part of New York, which is Soho. We actually had a dog named Soho at the time. We have subsequently had other New York named dogs. But the URL for anything with the word Soho in it is really, really expensive. And I hadn't even launched this business yet. So it wasn't going to happen. And what I was looking for was something that I could use the word brands in. I had copied that off of someone else. I was becoming a sales rep, and I was going to rep multiple lines of brands, these like goodies and gift items to local retailers. So we decided, okay, we'll name it after our former address, 520 East Brands. That's where it came from. Not realizing, like seriously, had a complete brain meltdown that the area code in Louisville, Kentucky is 502. So from day one, it was confusing. And nobody wants a confusing brand because every time I'd get introduced or I'd meet someone, they'd be like, this is Shane from 502 East Brands. I'm like, no. So it would annoy me. I had a cute little logo. My colors I really liked in the beginning. Orange is one of my favorite colors. So that was incorporated, but they didn't really have any meaning behind them. And then over the years, I kind of felt like they were a little muted. I am kind of loud. So I wanted something that better represented me. And over the years, I was just annoyed with my brand. I wouldn't put it anywhere. I never put it out front. I just kind of hated it. And so all through COVID, I was complaining about this with my team. I'm like, I hate it. I hate the brand. I don't want to put us anywhere. I want to get out front, but I hate the brand. And they were like, we just bite the bullet and do this already. So we went through a whole process. I involved my team every step of the way. We did like I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes, rattle off every name you can think of. We must have had like 150 names. Then we started kind of calling that down. And then it started with what URLs are available because, by 2023, what's available and what's not $10,000. So there were a handful of them that worked. And then we kind of hemmed and hawed back and forth on them. And I'm in my local chamber, Chamber of St. Matthews. And so we have a graphic designer in one of my networking groups. She had just graduated college. She's young and excited, has a lot of energy and super creative ideas. And fortunately, her budget was right within what I wanted to pay. She's very cost effective. If anyone wants her name, she's fantastic. She now has a master's degree and she's still working. I'm still working with her. She's great. Anyway, so I met with Lizzie and I said, this is everything. She asked me a series of questions. So it really came down to the graphic designer. Once we had nailed down the URL, the graphic designer asking me a series of questions. What don't I like? What do I like? And we had this meeting. I forget the name of it now, but it's like this taco restaurant and it has all these bright colors on the wall, like super bright colors. And she's like, so what are like your favorite colors? I'm like, all of these. So she went back and she worked on her idea and she came back to me with like a vision board, like a card with all these colors. And I was like, I love this. And then she unveiled the logo. And I think I might be the only client in history that I'm like, I have no changes. Let's go with it. And I loved it. We really felt that the brand Big Voice Social represents what we do, who we are. It's big and loud. It's got fun colors. She set me up in Canva with all of my brand kit stuff. So it makes it really easy to make graphics and make flyers and do what I need to do. My web developer, Kenny, again, came back in and they sort of did a quick overhaul of the website. It wasn't like a whole redo, but they were able to give it a facelift with what we needed, updated the fonts and the colors and all of that. We did a photo shoot. I have a local photographer here, Maria Marshall, who I love. She did our branding session. She also did my son's senior photos, which are going to make me cry because I'm going to post them soon. It's coming. He me. It is true. He's going to the University of Florida. Anyway, so that's kind of how it all came back together. And we've been really happy. I'm still to this day excited to put my logo on something, excited to tell someone what my brand name is. And I think everyone should feel that way about their brand. And if they don't, they should go through this process. Even if you don't do a whole rebrand, there are things you can change, switch out a font, switch out a secondary color, something. We love it again because we love it and we're very proud of it.
And I can tell that you're very enthusiastic and excited about it. But the name, right, Big Voice Social, really ties in with your own kind of personal brand of being the professional big mouth as well. And so it just makes sense. And yeah, I love that all the colors are very.
And I like using anything big because I'm 4'8". So as you guys know, so
Exactly.
Makes me a little, it's like wearing high heels. It just makes me bigger.
I love that even as a small business owner, you still experience that, the rebrand experience that for those of us who have worked in corporate America and have gone through these like massive rebrand projects, or, you know, we're going to relaunch the website and things like that. It's interesting to hear how it's not just the big guys. It can be,
right,
you know, small business owners too. And I also want to send you kudos for name dropping all of your amazing contacts that you have. I think that's awesome.
Well, they're amazing. And I am so dependent on the other people that I work with in this community. Louisville, Kentucky is a small business community, and we know each other and we network and we refer. And a lot of these people will work with people who don't live here. So I love to name drop them because they're fantastic, and I'm not going to gatekeep them. I am happy to send more and more and more business to all of them because they're amazing.
Absolutely. And just, you know, we had this whole conversation earlier about using specialists, right? And using vendors. Like, I don't want to code. I don't know how to code, but I have a great WordPress guy. And so whenever somebody says, I need a web developer or WordPress guy, I got a guy for you. And so
exactly,
like you said, Amy, I absolutely appreciate you name dropping Shane, because I'd love your graphic designer's name, because I'm always like,
well, she's great. Her name is Lizzie, and her last name is Wolf, and her company is Big Bad Wolf. And I think that's so cool.
I love it. Ooh. I love it. Not only supporting, you know, a woman, but also like, I love just unique business names and things like that.
Yeah.
And everything she does is like hot pink. It's super cool. I love it.
Oh, then I'm clever. So, because as you notice, my brand colors are now kind of a hot pink magenta. I did kind of the same thing recently, right? I was tired of my old colors, but I wanted to keep my name still and give it kind of a refresh. And so that's what we did. Changed up the font, changed up colors, and so I absolutely understand, because now I'm excited about it too. Like, kind of refining my joy with my brand.
That's awesome. It feels good.
It does. It really, really does. And oh my gosh, I don't want our conversation to end, but our time has come to a close, and we've just covered so much. But I think some takeaways that I'm thinking of for small businesses and even larger brands, right, is obviously social is a way to help drive traffic to your website. You've got to make sure that you have a plan. You've got to know what it is you're measuring, and you don't know what you're measuring unless you have a goal or a plan or strategy. And social can be effective if you've got that roadmap and you're not just slapping content up because, oh my gosh, it's Tuesday, I got to talk about Taco Tuesday or whatever.
My favorite's Throwback Thursday hashtag. Even though we don't use those anymore.
And that too, even the whole thing about hashtags. I mean, how many people out there are kind of crying over the loss of hashtags now? And we didn't even talk about that whole Instagram thing with the new size now that has thrown everybody into a tizzy.
But they told us everyone is in a tizzy. And I'm like, we've known about this for like 6, 7, 8 months, something like that. And everyone's like, now everything's ruined. Although I will tell you, my daughter, who also works in the space, she is currently looking for an internship this summer, FYI. Anyway, she told me that she read or saw somewhere that they're coming up with an update that will adjust your former Square profile things to make it look right in portrait. So don't go removing things. She's usually right. She usually knows that kind of stuff. So anyway, something to keep in mind if they come
I'm not removing anything, the old stuff.
No, I'm not either. If it looks weird at this point, it's fine. Yeah. But yeah, we're doing everything in regular portrait mode now and making sure any graphic designer we work with knows. So
in portrait, yeah. Well, and even on Canva, they've got the new sizing.
They do.
But you still have to be mindful, and I just learned this too, and this will be my last thought for because I created that graphic for us for Instagram, right? And you have to be very mindful of the space at the very top and the very bottom, because it cut out where I put host and when, and then it kind of cut out your name, like looking at it on mobile. on desktop, it still looks fine.
Fine.
But how often are
On
we on?
Canva, it's got the guidelines. So if you hit it, you have to like play around with it, but it'll hit the guidelines. Yeah.
I need to use those guidelines a little bit better. But so as we close out our show, oh my gosh, we're going to have you back on because there's just so much good information. Be sure to connect with Big Voice Social on Instagram, big.voice.social. And then they're also found easily on LinkedIn, Big Voice Social. You cannot miss the bright orange logo. It's beautiful. Connect with Shane personally. She is on LinkedIn as well. Again, very easy to find Ms. Shaps. And then learn more at their website, bigvoicesocial.com. And if you would like to connect with my wonderful friend and co-host here, Amy Fair, or want to just chat with her about content marketing and her knowledge, very, very extensive knowledge of content marketing, definitely connect with her on LinkedIn as well. And BrandCraft is a monthly show, and I am looking for guests for the rest of this year. So if you are interested, if you are part of a small but mighty team of marketing professionals and practitioners and want to share what you've learned, what's worked, what's really, talk about trends, what's not worked, I'd love to have you as a guest. So please submit your information. Until next time, next month, I don't have my guest for next month yet. I actually do have my guest, but I don't recall because I've had a million things going on this week. Just follow my social media and I'll announce who the guest will be. And I can't thank you both enough, Shane and Amy, for being on the show today. And oh my gosh, what a great conversation.
It's so fun. I'm so glad to see you both. Yay.
You need to
Thank you for having us.
I know. She needs to come to Dallas to visit us, right? Because Amy and I are both in the Dallas area. So just
lunch
saying.
on Monday.
Yeah.
Yay.
I mean, I've had
every time I see those things, those big Texas things, I think of you guys. Those the homecoming, the prom. What are those things called?
The mums.
The mums. I see them on social, and you're the first people I think of because you live there. And we
it was
talked
not
about
like that when I was in high school. I mean,
that's what Amy said,
right? Like now it's this monstrosity.
They're like bigger than your head. Yeah, it's fascinating. And
Amy,
you're going to get to have that. You're going to get to have that with your kids, right? Yeah.
Well, the boys are supposed to make them for the girls, but I do have a son. So
is that the thing now? The boys make it for the girls? Oh, I have no idea.
I would like to give
what I'm telling my daughter.
She slept the whole time. How about that? She slept on her back, but she slept and she didn't bark and whine at me. So let's give Hudson a round of applause.
Yay, Hudson. Well, thanks again, ladies. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you're watching this on the replay, feel free to drop a comment or a question. We'll make sure that we get it answered for you. I'm so excited to have you both on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.